As I mentioned earlier in the program, the loudest applause line from President Trump's 1 hour, 45-minute speech Saturday at CPAC here in Washington, D.C. was when he promised to ensure that women's sports was protected from competition by men. That's right, we will ensure that men will not compete in women's sports. Seems like a no-brainer, right? Do we even need a law? But we do, don't we? Why was it such a big applause line? And the other aspects of the CPAC conversation over transgender policies, why are they so important right now? And why are they clearly a winning political message for conservatives? Let's bring in Kelsey Bolar. She is the director and producer of the Identity Crisis series at Independent Women's Forum. And Kelsey, I'm assuming it's a winning message. I think it's a winning message because it's one of those things that transcends party lines, doesn't it? Even Democrats have daughters who play lacrosse and they shouldn't have to compete against men.
Absolutely. The public polling on women's sports, girls' sports is clear. The vast majority of Americans do think it's unfair to allow biological boys and men to compete with and against women and girls. Not to mention there's a safety concern. As the mom of a young daughter, I would not want her playing lacrosse or other sports with biological men because we know that they are just stronger. They have from the time they are born, there are biological differences between boys and girls, women and men. And that is becoming a political position that we're seeing politicians need to stand up to. This is an important moment in our country where, we do have to be brave, speak out, and fight this. Unfortunately, I know at Independent Women's Forum, we play a huge role in doing that. But what we constantly hear from female athletes is that they are too scared, they are too intimidated to publicly speak about this issue because of the public backlash that they might face, because they might get branded as being transphobic, which of course is not the case. So those of us who have platforms and ability to speak up and stand up, and that includes politicians, we have an obligation to do that.
They are intimidated, these young women. Riley Gaines, who was at CPAC, we spoke with her. We've talked to her on the program quite a bit here. She's the swimmer, the Division I swimmer who had to compete against Leah Thomas. She's a very courageous young woman, but she waited until she was done competing before she spoke out. A lot of these athletes are told don't say anything. If they do say something or if they voice a concern to their coach or to their administrators at their college, they're told that they have to seek counseling and therapy to get over their concerns, Kelsey. It's blaming the woman. I thought that was something we shouldn't do.
Right. Women lose across the board when these types of policies are in place. They're losing positions on sports teams. They're losing scholarship opportunities in college athletics. And then in professional sports, they are losing money. So this is complete blatant discrimination against women. And it's interesting that women are constantly asked, if not told, to step aside, that this is the right, tolerant, compassionate thing to do when women's sports is something we all fought hard to compete in and have a level playing field where we could compete with our own biological sex. And now we're being told to shut up and step aside.
And there's another aspect of this, and I know this is going to sound quaint and old-fashioned, but we're talking about young women here, teenage girls at the high school level and in the college level, maybe in their young 20s, where I want to be delicate here, but I believe that for those women, the first time that they see a fully intact naked man, it should be on their terms. It should be something that they get to determine, okay, I'm ready for this, and this is going to be something that I'm going to experience. This is now, frankly, if I can use the word, thrust upon them. And without any warning, as we've learned. You're sitting there in the locker room getting ready for competition, and boom, there is a fully intact naked man, an athletic naked man right there. That's not right.
Larry, some more athletic than others, because we do know there have been cases of biological men in YMCA women's locker rooms where there are very young girls also present. So I wouldn't say you're always going to run into an athletic male body.
Fair
when this
enough.
happens.
Fair
But
enough.
I'm glad you brought that up. This is a more difficult piece of the conversation where conservatives are accused of being fear mongering when we raise it. But we know that girls and women have been exposed to male genitalia in locker rooms. We know in the case of these swimmers that they were exposed and it did make them uncomfortable. How do women not have the right to and just feel safe enough to speak up about that? That is where our culture is. Something is deeply wrong. We need a course correction. We need to get back to biological truths. There's room for compassion on all sides of this conversation, but that does not mean girls and women need to be exposed to male genitalia in private female areas.
Thank
And
you.
it also does not mean they need to miss out on competitive opportunities to make room for men.
So, Kelsey, the latest news story now is frankly going in the wrong direction. The powerlifting competition now internationally for the United States team will include men. There was a discrimination lawsuit, and in losing that lawsuit, the United States Powerlifting Association or Federation or whatever they are, they've decided that men can compete. And this is not, it's not figure skating, it's not gymnastics, this is powerlifting. I mean, I hate to say it, but probably your average guy at the gym right now could compete at a national or international level if he competed as a woman. That's not a degradation to some of the very strong women out there. It's just, again, genetics.
Well, unfortunately, this was the result of a court decision. So we actually saw an athletic association attempt to stand up and protect women, perhaps because it is so obvious when it comes to weightlifting, the biological, physical advantages that men have over women. And so they attempted to do that. They were blocked by the courts. I do expect there to be an appeal in this case, but it just shows, the different ways this is being handled. We have not seen the NCAA attempt to protect women in the way we at least witnessed a willingness to fight to stand up for women in this case. But look, this is how ingrained this ideology is into our court systems here.
Yeah.
The Biden administration has twisted language all across the board. We know it's in public schools. So this is a very prevalent ideology across the board that is going to take legal battles, cultural battles,
Yep.
and brave women to speak up and to fight it.
You're right. And by the way, you mentioned the Biden administration. This is critically important to point out because I saw a lot of conservative, Republican, libertarian types on Twitter pushing back against what Trump said over the weekend by saying, oh, what happened to all my small government states' rights conservatives? Why should this be a federal thing? No. It's the Biden administration that's federalizing this. They're redefining Title IX, which was written back in the early 70s, to now include transgendered individuals. There's no way President Nixon and the congressman back in 1972 ever dreamt that this would apply to men competing as women. It's the Biden administration distorting Title IX that's the problem. We just want to restore it.
Right, Larry. And since when is it not conservative to stand up for basic truth when it comes to biology and sex? There are men and female, and certainly that is not a conservative value that any of us anticipated 10 years on needing to defend. But yes, this is the conservative standing up for basic truths.
Kelsey Bolar is fighting this fight, and she's fighting it intelligently and with wisdom and with precise language, and we need that more than ever on the conservative side of this discussion. Kelsey, it's always great to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
And please check out her incredible series of videos produced for Independent Women's Forum. It's called Identity Crisis. It doesn't get nearly enough play on YouTube. You know why, but we'll keep pushing it. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.